Hello and welcome to another episode of Page 10. My name is Abbas. I'm your host. We're recording on the 3rd of February 2023. Page 10 is a current affairs show where everybody on the panel brings one piece of news that happened in the last week and then all of us have a healthy discussion about it. In case you're listening to us for the first time, please press the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, press the like button. Share this episode with someone who you think will like it. In case you're listening to us on an audio platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can always rate us and review us. Please give us some good reviews because it goes a long way in reaching more people. So today on the podcast, we have one mainstay and one guest panelist. Without further ado, let's introduce the mainstay or the permanent panelist of Page 10, Meghnad.
Hello, Abbas. I'm in Bombay.
You're in Bombay. You're
Yes.
in the studio, which is always great.
Yeah, and also an exciting week again.
Again, yes.
Last week was exciting. This week got excitinger.
Yes. And we have our guest panelist with us today. Please welcome Abhinav Trivedi.
Hi Abbas, hi Meghnad.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
For a change, I'm also in Bombay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, actually two Delhi people
In Bombay.
Yes, sitting in,
the
AC.
studio.
So Abhinav is a business journalist and a media entrepreneur from Street Journos.
Yeah.
What Street Journos does is make content for news channels, and as he put it, these are his words, essentially Balaji telefilms for news channels.
It doesn't look good the way you say it. Okay?
Listen, I've been a Balaji fan of a show or two, even if I classify as that as a guilty pleasure. It's addictive, if I may say so. And Abhinav, you've had two shows on the IVM network in the past. One was called Ikka Dukka Economy, and the other was called Probation Se Promotion Tak.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So you can check those episodes out in the archives on the IVM podcast network.
Please do.
So without further ado, Abhinav, let's start with you. You have the big story for the week.
Oh my God.
What happened? You're going to be telling us about the budget. So without further ado, take it away.
Yeah, so budget was presented on February 1st, and the biggest announcement, Abbas and Meghnad, was of course what everybody was anticipating, reduction in the income tax. Okay.
Right.
So the slabs were of course revised for the new tax and old tax regime, and without making it more complicated, moti बात ये कि अगर आप नए tax regime में opt करते हैं, if you have income within 7 lakhs, you don't have to pay any tax.
Okay.
So that was one of the that announcement received the loudest applause from all over the country and even in the parliament. Apart from that, the big announcements, of course, was that the government, in spite of its low earnings in the last year, has still decided that it will spend 10 lakh crore as a capital expenditure. So that means government is going to spend a hell lot of money on infrastructure, ports development this year. Now that is what they are saying will translate into rural jobs.
Okay.
How much that will be, only time will tell. Apart from that, the big announcement was on the education side. Okay, so AI has been accepted as official sector by the government. So government is quite keen on enhancing AI talent within the country. So what they are proposing is setting up AI labs across the country to fund research and innovation. And what the government has also recognized is that AI will be an integral part of many sectors going forward.
Okay.
So you need to nurture AI talent. So, specific AI colleges, AI courses, AI faculties, that is the pathway. The third biggest announcement was in the agriculture space. So we were discussing on a show called Kambak Paisa, like this is one show which we do for one of our clients.
Right.
Agriculture. So if you want to start something in agriculture, a startup, this is probably the best time because government has announced a credit limit of around, let me check, 20 lakh crores. So you can opt. I mean, that is again a fund of funds, which the government has been announcing over the past few years. But on paper, 20 lakh crore of money is available. You can, avail that credit. Apart from that, a lot of emphasis has been laid on fisheries, horticulture, and stuff like that. So if any of our listeners want to start something in the agriculture, वो गांव में जाना चाहते हैं शहर की जिंदगी छोड़ करके, so probably this is the best time on paper to start. उसके अलावा when it comes to education space, I'll come back. 100 5G labs across engineering.
5G labs.
I mean, labs which encourage 5G education, 5G technology, research work in that. Yeah. So research and development has been identified by this government as one of the core pillars.
Okay.
Because we literally suck at research and innovation. Like R&D India is not known for R&D.
Right.
Of course.
We are a consumer-driven country, not an innovation-driven country. So with that, from that perspective, it's a sound announcement. Apart from that, defense budget was again hiked. Pharmacy and healthcare budget was hiked as compared to the last year. So there'll be more money available at healthcare sector's disposal. Railways again got around 2.5 lakh crores of allotment. So there'll be more Vande Bharats across the country. There'll be better pantries. And this is Meghnad and Abbas.
Yeah.
This is keeping in line with the G20 leadership.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
Which we have. So the government wants that our ports should look good, our bus stands should look good,
Right.
our airports, our railway stations, they should look good.
Right.
तो उसलिए वो एक बड़ा headline generating announcement भी है from that perspective. Green energy, again, government wants to encourage green startups.
Okay.
तो उसमें 35,000 crore का announcement है. And let me give a disclaimer here. These are all the announcements.
Correct.
This is
Yeah.
whether they will translate or not. We shall discuss going ahead.
Yeah.
So these are all announcements. So I would say that the fiscal deficit, जो हम इक्का दुक्का इकोनॉमी में ही बहुत समझाते हैं, fiscal deficit is essentially the difference between the expenses and the revenue of the government.
Okay.
So if the fiscal deficit is higher, then the government has to pay interest on that जो pending amount, and
Right.
that eventually affects the citizens because it drives our interest rates high.
Right.
So essentially, fiscal deficit, government wants to consolidate. Their aim is to reduce their fiscal deficit going forward, especially looking at the global uncertainties and recession which is happening.
Yeah.
So these are the highlights,
Okay.
if you ask me.
Right.
There are multiple and many announcements, but according to me,
Right.
and of course, I'm not the best person and the last person to be commenting on it. According to me, these are the top big
Takeaways.
announcements,
Correct.
takeaways from the budget.
Mota.
I've heard cigarettes will be more expensive.
Yeah, cigarettes will be more expensive.
Yes, thanks, Abbas. Yes.
And cigarettes have always been at the forefront when it comes to raising taxes because it's a sin tax.
Right.
That is one tax nobody will have an objection on,
Right.
and people will make face, but you're like, okay, fine, ठीक है. So वहाँ से बहुत अच्छा revenue होता है. But you should. It was a surprise, like seeing the markets. ITC stocks should have gone down, but ITC stocks went up immediately after the announcement because agriculture में बहुत बड़े announcement हुए थे. And
Right,
ITC is
correct.
big in rural agriculture
yeah.
front. Yeah. So.
So is this budget more satisfactory, sound more satisfactory than the last couple of budgets?
Well, how should I put it, Abbas? See, what happens is budget essentially
Right.
with time
Huh.
is losing its value as far as tangibility on the ground is concerned. It's more of a headline making day.
Okay.
Okay, the media channels run to and fro. There is a buzz all over the place. Agencies use tax as a hashtag in every campaign which they make on that day.
Aaj tak people go 160
Yeah.
feet in the air to do a show.
Yeah, I saw
Yes.
that. So it's more of a headline making day.
Okay.
As far as if you want it to be compared to last year's, well, last year semiconductor was the core of the budget.
Yes.
This year it's AI.
Right.
So next year there'll be something else.
Right.
So by the time these big announcements reach the last mile, एक साल निकल जाता है. So to answer your question, whether this will be a better budget on paper, definitely.
Okay.
It's a headline generating budget and everybody is gung ho about it. Will it generate results? I don't think so.
Does this government get one more budget next year, or do the elections take
So
place?
here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
That is what I wanted to actually talk about a little bit, right? So I used to take the budget super seriously, pehle, when I was like new in parliament and everything. So the first actual speech that I wrote was for an MP for a budget, right? Like a proper speech. Obviously, like highlights that you're giving, वैसे ही कुछ तो भी किया था, and then of course his critique and whatever. Eventually I realized over like a 2-3 year period कि this doesn't matter because winter में what happens is there is a revised budget presented.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially that I think is the real budget.
Okay. And I wonder what time does that
Nobody
happen?
gives a shit. So basically it's like November, December time में होता है.
Okay.
Winter session जब भी होता है तो there will be a revised budget. But
हाँ.
the reason why they do it, it's actually, so I'll just give you one example.
Yeah.
Manrega.
Yeah.
Right, so Manrega is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, right? Which is essentially a person is guaranteed 100 days of work if they opt for it, with a job card if they opt for it. Now every year the government gives like a chunk of budget to this program. Ki ठीक है, like across India, states will give like a portion of it and center will give a portion of it, 60-40 का breakup
And
है.
that is counted as a subsidy.
It's counted as a subsidy. So essentially, it's a job guarantee scheme, right?
Right.
You know, and because of the pandemic, because of so many other reasons, because of economic distress, rural distress, over the years we have seen Manrega is in like massive demands, and on any given time you can go and look at it real time also. By the way, real time data comes from Manrega. Every year I have seen for the past 4 years, I think, they give like this budget figure abhi, which is this, and winter budget में it doubles. Or like sometimes like 20,000-30,000 crore उसमें और add करने पड़ते हैं. So my thing about the budget always, and I have had this complaint before. Suppose last year you spent 80,000 crore on a Manrega scheme. It got completely used up in like a first few months. Then winter में और पैसा डालना पड़ा. So now you know कि चलो 100 मतलब 1 लाख करोड़ खर्च करना पड़ेगा next year. इस साल तुमने 60,000 करोड़ कर दिया. Which means in winter, if things don't change, उसमें और पैसा फिर से डालना पड़ेगा.
Correct.
And that happens to everything.
But one thing you should notice, Meghnad, I mean, over the last 3 years, government has been consistently cutting on 3 subsidies. They're cutting down on it. First is, of course, food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy, and then there is Manrega. This year as well, they have been cutting down Manrega spends so that they can make up for fiscal deficit. क्योंकि क्या होता है ना, on ground Manrega में बहुत corruption है. Ground पे Manrega में बहुत corruption है. So whether it will translate, and like Meghnad said, you know, government be confused because Manrega is very good for vote bank.
Correct.
You cannot survive without Manrega. You'll have to mention it.
Right.
It is actually the first thing you do when you think of rural distress. It's like Manrega डाल दो उधर. It's like खड्डे खोदो फिर से भरो, खड्डे खोदो फिर से भरो, 100 दिन का काम दे दो. Right? You know, that is what they think.
Yes. And it's like that scene of People Live. You know, जब राजपाल यादव के घर में वो हैंडपंप दे करके जाता है, बोलता है कि अब तुम अमीर हो गए हो, तुमको अब तुम सुसाइड नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि तुमको हैंडपंप मिल गया.
Right.
ठीक है ना? It is exactly like that. Nobody cares what happens after that. वो result में translate हो रहा है.
Correct. Yeah.
वो नहीं कोई.
Achha, I have a pop quiz for you. This is I've done with a few people. You will know this. Do you know how much? What is the biggest spend of the government in overall budget? What do they spend it on? All the time. Is this year? Let's go with this year.
What do they spend the most on? Agriculture?
Okay, one option. I'll give you 3 chances.
Okay. Education?
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Okay. Okay, go on.
Infrastructure?
Fair. Close. So usually the answer is defense, but actually that is also wrong. Because they most spend on interest payments. So here's the funny thing, right? So this fiscal deficit that Abhinav spoke about, it's essentially the government taking loan from somewhere and spending it on schemes and defense pay. Also, education is very bad. The spending on education and health has been reducing also. This year also it's very low.
So taking from Meghnad, this year last year government spent 20% of their revenue on.
Yeah, this year it's 24%.
24%.
Yeah. So basically a quarter of our budget is gone in paying interest on loans. Right? So the problem there is that if you look at how a country sort of functions, right? You know, like it's like the government needs to spend on schemes, right? Unless they spend on schemes, vote nahi aayega, right? So to spend on schemes, they keep launching new schemes. So I think there are about over the last 5 years, if I'm not wrong, I read this somewhere, please correct me if I'm wrong, they've launched around 70 new schemes, right? But पहले क्या scheme में क्या हुआ था वो किसी को पता नहीं है. Like this AI center thingy, this is under the skill development ministry. They had launched a similar scheme, I think in 2017, 2018, they had launched a similar scheme which was about skilling India. Okay. You know, they were building institutes of skilled, everywhere, right? 100 बनाने वाले थे. There was a report, I think, last year which says कि 10 भी नहीं खुले. Now they are actually turning that scheme into this scheme. तो जो skill development institutions बनाने वाले थे, they are now AI development institutions, right? They keep doing this.
So essentially what Meghnad like is saying essentially is कि ये पैसा लगा करके उठा करके इधर लगा दिया उसको दूसरा नाम दे दिया.
हाँ, but also budget भी बढ़ाते हैं, right? So what happens is, so the government has to spend money on schemes, right? So the budget is basically हाँ हम इस साल इतना खर्चा करने वाले हैं, but पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? Because लोग टैक्स देते नहीं है, is what the government claims, but actually everybody pays taxes. But essentially we get less tax, but we want to spend more. So that deficit basically is filled by
Market borrowings.
Right. So either they take from banks, foreign banks, or World Bank, or market से पैसा बना के करते. Now, if when you borrow, you need to pay interest. So the more you borrow, the more interest you pay.
Yeah.
And last year, as you said, was 20%. This year, 4% more. So even if the taxes go up, even if the revenue goes up, the spending increases. But last year भी लिया था, उसके year पहले भी लिया था, उसके पहले भी लिया था, तो उस पे तो interest देना पड़ेगा. Therefore, अभी 24% of our budget is on interest. It's bizarre. But anyway, that's why I think it's also garbage, the budget. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
So, yeah, essentially like taking from Meghnad's point. But one thing, you know, Meghnad, I mean, I'm sure you know this. Government is known for proper payment and timely payment of its interest. So, now our bond yields, which are essentially a certificate of whether the government's ability to pay loans is good or not, they are reduced in the long term. So like दो तरह की bond yield होती है, एक short term एक long term. तो आपकी long term bond yield कम होनी चाहिए अगर आपकी सरकार अच्छा loan repayment time पे कर पा रही है तो. तो our bond yields in the long term are going down, which means essentially the investors are expressing confidence that the government will be able to pay loans on time. और वो होता है मतलब unlike some countries in the West.
Would you like to name the countries?
We have known like US has deficit like debt of like trillions.
Yeah.
So like
$30 trillion पहुंच गया ना वो कुछ तो.
हाँ मतलब they are in trillions. I mean हम उसके मुकाबले में हम बहुत कम है. But having said that, like Meghnad also said, budget today has become like more of an announcement day.
Correct.
It does not translate. And I'll tell you, like last year, like he said, last year 2017 you said ना, like 2021 में semiconductor के ऊपर बहुत वो हुआ था. Then there were foreign education universities which were being inculcated within the country. They always come up with an economic survey a day before the budget. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that presents a very bad picture, Meghnad, and correct me if I'm wrong there. Okay? What you should essentially do is come up with a sectoral economic survey. Okay, what happened in telecom? How much did you spend and how many jobs were generated? How much income was generated? How much did you spend on, suppose, manufacturing? Now, the biggest miss which this government, what people are also saying, was PLI schemes. Okay. A lot was expected on PLI schemes that they will start giving incentives to manufacturers in maybe the toy industry, the renewable energy industry. They'll extend the PLI schemes. They have it for 14 sectors. More manufacturers wanted to. But that didn't happen. And what is the report card of the PLI schemes which were given last year or a year before that? Nobody knows about them. So what happens is that people get lost in these big numbers. Fund of funds, 20 lakh crore, 40 lakh crore. People get lost. So they are good for announcement. And media loves writing 40 lakh crores and bada. But uske baad hota kya hai? So economic survey also, and Meghnad, correct me if you think I'm wrong, you should come up with a sector. How many jobs were generated in that one sector? They won't publish it.
Actually, Abhinav, I would say, sure, I agree with you on the sectoral analysis, but उससे भी basic जा सकते हैं, right? Like for example, again, pop quiz for Abbas. How much money do you need to earn per month to be in the top 10% in the country? Guess.
Per month.
Top 10% of the wealth earners in the country.
25,000?
You're actually correct.
I think I read
you read this.
somewhere.
Yeah, of course. Actually, it is true. No, but think about it. Like 25,000 rupees if you earn in a month in this country, you would be in the top 10%. Now, World Bank has said that I think if you earn 11,000 rupees in a month, you are above poverty line. But in our country, if you consider the current rates, etc., if you earn about which is 140 rupees a day, Abhinav, correct me if I'm wrong, would be above the poverty line, right? So which comes to about like 5,000 से 6,000 रुपए per month. So अपना government ना poverty line भी नहीं fix कर रहा है. Essentially, also Yogi Adityanath gave a statement. I was in the morning. I was seeing. He has said that he thanked the government for extending the food subsidy. Pradhan Mantri Garib Anaj Yojana, that thing. 80 crore people in our country are dependent on food subsidies. Out of a population of 140 odd crore, if 60% of your population is essentially dependent on food subsidies, that is a thing worth talking about, right? And the budget speech will never mention that.
Right.
And it's an irony, Abbas. In spite of 25,000 bracket, which we just discussed, which Meghnad mentioned, we have overtaken UK as the bigger economy. Okay, and we are saying like 5 trillion economy, 10 trillion economy. The worst thing here is, the irony is that people do not understand economy and finance. So it's not like your I won't say easy topic, but more emotional topics. Which occupy the major share of the prime time in the news channels. वो आप जल्दी उसमें इकोनॉमी ना लोग अपना सर खुजलाने लग जाते हैं. एक मैंने मीम कहीं देखा था जिसमें वो वेलकम में नाना पाटेकर नहीं ऐसे करता है, दे दो जो भी है. मेजोरिटी ऑफ मिडिल क्लास ऑन द डे ऑफ द बजट इज ठीक है जो भी है, रात में जाके सह लेंगे थोड़ा, और शाम को जाके आप घर पे सो जाते हो. यू डोंट केयर. सो majority of the people don't even understand what is happening throughout the day. And the explanations on news channels, on majority of the news, they are so complex. Everybody becomes an economist on that.
Why is that? Why don't news... I mean, sometimes I feel news channels complicate it further than what is required.
उनके पास ability नहीं है ना बात करने की.
Ability, and that's
ability
why,
and that's understanding नहीं, ability नहीं.
And that's where people like us come into picture. And Meghnad, that's why it comes to us.
No, because I mean nobody also talks in terms where अच्छा मुझे बताना हो क्या रहा है, right? You know, like I explained to you, right? कि अरे बजट का मतलब क्या होता है, right? बजट का मतलब ये है कि गवर्नमेंट है, गवर्नमेंट को खर्चा करना है, एक साल में कितना खर्चा करेगी उसका प्रोजेक्शन, right? What is important, again, I keep telling people when they talk about budget, is go to the budget website, look at the outcome budget. I feel that is the real budget which you should look at. Now, what the outcome budget is, इसकी पिछले साल जो announcement किए थे, उसमें से पूरा कितना हुआ है?
Okay, so there is a record of that.
But nobody talks about that. No news channel will talk about that. No news channel will focus on that. कि ठीक है तुमने पिछले साल, like for example, इस साल आज तक वाले went 180 feet in the air. Right. They spoke about budget का expectation. 180 feet. 160 feet. Whatever, कुछ तो भी feet. They were हवा में थे conference room में, right? They spoke about the pre-budget की अरे ये expectation है वो expectation है. Yesterday I saw like India Today आज तक they're talking about tax rates. They're talking about basically the highlights you basically said. Nobody will mention कि last year जो हमने किया था उसमें change क्या है. Right, last year हमने ये projection किया था. Last year हमने ये actual में ये हुआ है.
This is exactly what when I was telling Abbas that we will discuss. Yeah. This is what I also wanted to discuss. Nobody talks about the progress report of the last year.
Yeah.
Like, semiconductor nationalism हम लोग उस time बोल रहे थे. What happened to it?
Right.
I mean, did it translate? How many semiconductor companies did we make? And this is not that we are talking with like in air.
Right.
These were actual announcements. We were planning when this Ukraine-Russia war started happening, and there was this time when Nancy Pelosi flew to Taiwan.
Correct.
And everybody was going, China is about to attack, China is about... Everybody was talking about semiconductor. We did a live on that very day, that what will happen to semiconductor nationalism.
Yeah.
Now, we announced a lot of PLI schemes. We were inviting a lot of foreign companies. But how many of them come? They won't come because there is a lack of single window clearance in your country, in our country, of course. There is no clarity on tax regimes. Companies get frustrated, running from corridor to corridor, bureaucracies. So, Vietnam, Thailand, Bangladesh, they have taken China's place. You know, China was considered to be the manufacturing hub. After COVID, somebody had to take China's place.
Yeah.
They have been faster. As opposed to India, which was better equipped to take that place. Because we have slow-moving processes here.
Right.
Like,
there's no ease of business.
You know, it's so
we are
funny.
63rd.
Abhinav, you were talking about semiconductor. I was reading up on this. There's this great video by Harris. What's his name? He was with Vox earlier. Johnny Harris. On the semiconductor war in the world, right? I realized something, and I was going deep into this semiconductor back then. The reason why Taiwan is the 92% of all semiconductors are manufactured there currently, and 8% everywhere else. But the reason why is because the machines that are required, the labs that are required to make these semiconductors are extremely complex.
Okay.
So when that semiconductor announcement was made back then, the idea was that we will make such labs यहाँ पे. बट कोई टेक्नोलॉजी शेयर नहीं कर रहा है हमारे साथ. यूएस ने टेक्नोलॉजी ताइवान से भी शेयर करना बंद कर दिया अभी. एंड इट्स बिजार, लाइक चाइना इज स्टीलिंग आवर टेक्नोलॉजी, तो सबको ही बंद कर दो. सो अनाउंसमेंट तो कर देते हो, लॉजिक नहीं है कुछ उसके पीछे.
Do you think that's the similar thing is going to happen with the AI labs का जो promise किया है?
I mean AI का टेक्नोलॉजी है क्या यहाँ पे?
I'm glad you brought that point, Abbas. For any development to happen, forget big fiscal deficit announcement, forget sectoral developments. Okay, now it's my turn to throw a question. Okay, what according to you is the most important asset for economic development of a nation? Most important asset according to you?
Ease of working. I mean,
okay, one more option. Within the
human
country.
resource, I guess. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Human resource. You need skilled people.
correct.
Many surveys have indicated that our MBAs and BTechs are unemployable. You can't take them into jobs. Soft skill is a huge problem. Latest technology is a huge problem. So I think, according to me, now again, I can be the worst person to comment on this, but I think the largest proportion on the budget should be into skill development.
Right.
You know, training the next billion set of population. 65% of our population is below 35 or 40, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong on the number. But we need to train the next set of engineers, the next set of management professionals. वही लेके जाएंगे ना आगे आपकी. Announcement तो was who will implement it? It's people. We don't have trained professionals. And that is one reason why companies also don't come to India, global companies, because there's a lack of talent.
Right.
And what the announcements indicate is only in the organized sector. So that's like 3.5 crore jobs. The rest 50 crore jobs are in the unorganized sector. The micro entrepreneurs, the गांव में जो बिहार में, the companies which employ 2-3 people. Nobody talks about them.
Right.
That is where the major unemployment is. And we have been through unemployed growth. ना क्या बुलाते हैं उसको?
Jobless growth.
We have been through this phase of jobless growth over the last 5 years. And there was no mention of unemployment, the word unemployment in the budget.
Right.
We need to talk about that. I mean, announcements are fine. I mean, I'm not fundamentally against announcements. Karo aap announcement. But the biggest announcement has to come from education side. Like, we need to train our kids, our upcoming generation, and maybe बहुत बूढ़ा नहीं हूँ, like people of our age as well, you know.
Right.
And you know, interestingly enough, so I think some 5 lakh people file income tax in India, if I'm not wrong. Acha, guys, by the way, I have to give a disclaimer here. A lot of the figures that are coming to my head right now might be wrong. Right? So if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this, please correct me, right? Please नीचे comment में लिख देना कि नहीं भाई तूने ये बोला था, figure actually ये है.
नहीं, मेघनाथ ने गलत बोलने के पैसे लिए हैं.
नहीं, I mean, I literally like I have some notes, but like some of the figures are in my head, so I'm just saying. So as far as I remember, 5 लाख लोग tax भरते हैं, income tax भरते हैं. So there are 3 main, I think, taxes that we get, which is income tax, corporate tax and GST, right? And उसके बाद है excise, customs,
direct and indirect taxes.
हाँ, indirect and indirect. But 3 main buckets में जो major tax आता है. Now income tax 5 जो लोग देते 5 लाख रुपए. There was a report I was reading that उसमें से बस कुछ 5,000 लोगों ने नए regime में ये किया था this year, opt किया है. So news channels will spend an incredible time talking about this 7 lakh rupees thing.
Correct,
which I think Abhinav mentioned right at the top and never spoke about it after that, which is great. This is how it should be, right? But the obsession with the tax rates is nuts.
Okay,
I mean, since yesterday
it's not 5 lakhs, it's 5 crores.
5 crores, yes.
5.8
Thank you.
crores.
I was also thinking, why is it just 5 lakh?
मतलब वो 5 lakh.
No, actually 5 lakh are the number of people who switched to the new regime, I think.
Okay.
And 5 crore is the total number of taxpayers.
And actually the biggest discussion was whether you should switch to new regime or you should stick to the old regime.
Yeah.
Now everybody becomes a personal finance expert, you know, on that day.
Oh, yes.
You cannot tell straight ki new or old on the top of your head. It's like, you're not some magician, right? It depends on your subject. It's very subjective. आपके investments कहाँ हैं, आपने पुराने से benefit मिलेगा, नए से benefit मिलेगा. Now what the government is trying to do, they have also reduced the rich tax. Like surcharge आपका 37% से 25% कर दिया है. Now indirectly what the government is trying to say कि हमने आपका personal जो wealth है ना उसमें सेंध नहीं लगाई है, तो आप अपनी companies के through expansion शुरू करो. investment. So what people are saying कि capex जो government ने बढ़ाया that will increase jobs. But government capex alone will not increase jobs. The private sector has to contribute equally or even more than that. Then there will be actual generation of jobs. And most of the benefits of the schemes which the government announces now, that goes with the top management. It doesn't reach your karmachari or the blue collared worker.
Wow, thanks for that great breakdown of the budget.
Massive gyan giving session. Yeah.
I think
And all of us are not gyanis, by the way. We're dumb fucks.
I think we'll somehow touch back on this when we come to Meghnad's story for the week. But at this point, we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll hear the stories that I have and Meghnad have. So we'll see you after a short break. But before that, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, press the like button, share this episode with someone who you think will like it.
Correct our wrong figures.
Correct our wrong figures in the comments.
Go down, right down and center, whatever you call it. If you
And if you're listening to this on audio, आप review में लिख दीजिएगा क्या क्या हमने mistakes की, but अच्छा rating देना and अच्छा review देना. So we'll see you on the other side of this break. Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. We have a special announcement introducing Club Paisa Vaisa, where you get episodes of Paisa Vaisa 3 days before release, bonus and ad-free content, and access to the full show archive. So get your yearly membership today for only rupees $6.99. Log on to club.ivmpodcast.com/paisavaisa. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus is joined by me and Ankita to discuss Pakistan's currency hitting a record low and a millionaire spending $2 million to forever remain 18 years old. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Dilshad Bilimoria of Dilzer Consultants about how financial planning is important for women and how they make it easier. On Hazard Age Well, me and Urjita are joined by comedian Ayushi Jagat to discuss the 80s cult film starring Rekha, Khoon Bhari Maang. New episodes of Hazard Age Well are out on the IVM Pop channel every Monday. And on page 10, myself, Nikhil, Meghnad and political editor Anusha Sood discuss the conclusion of the Bharat Jodo Yatra in Srinagar, BBC's documentary on PM Narendra Modi and more. New episodes are out on the All About Now feed every Monday. And once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcasts.com. We have some exciting stuff for you over there. Please check it out. Follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, please spread the word, tell your friends about it and don't forget to rate and review us wherever you're listening. You'll also find our shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Yono SBI, Capgemini and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you for making this possible. And we're back on page 10. We are here with Meghnad and Abhinav. So I'll go next with my story for the week. My story, the headline reads, Saffron rallies rail against Love-Jihad, mouth anti-Muslim lines. So the reason I picked up this particular topic is because this rally happened very much in the city where we are sitting, in the city of Mumbai. The rally was held by the Sakal Hindu Samaj. And so Meghnad and Abhinav, I had been seeing hoardings of this rally, which had an image of Shivaji, and it had text something along the lines of
Wait, let me open that story simultaneously.
Sure. It was about ke Hinduo saath chalo utho, something along those lines. And I was very curious to know what will be the footfall for something like this in a city like Bombay. So in the article that I'm reading from the Hindustan Times, they haven't mentioned a number, but they say they have started up by saying a sea of saffron-capped agitators were seen on the streets of Dadar raising saffron flags. So the rally was held from Dadar up till Parel, and the Sakal Hindu Samaj was responsible for this, which is a conglomerate of Hindutva organizations under the banner of the Hindu Jan Akrosh Morcha, which includes the Bajrang Dal, the Hindu Jan Jagruti Samiti and the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. The star speaker at this particular rally was T. Raja Singh, a BJP MLA from Telangana.
Telangana, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I know him. Anyway, yeah.
I'm sure
Fun
you'll
guy.
enlighten us more about him.
Fun guy.
He addressed the public meeting at Kamgar Maidan and used aggressive and provocative language against interfaith love affairs and warned Muslim youths to keep their distance from Hindu girls. One of the things that he said was not to buy products which have a halal tag on them. And he said, with the BMC polls coming up, vote only for those parties that talk about Hindu interests and have the capacity to free land from encroachers of a particular community. One of the naras that was heard during the rally was "Jo Hindu hit mein kaam karega, wo Maharashtra pe raj karega," which is a modified slogan from the 90s during the Rath Yatra. So the reason I picked this up is we've been seeing similar kind of rallies in smaller towns and cities. I think in the recent past, it's the first time that this is happening in a city like Mumbai. And we saw the similar kind of trend of mouthing anti-Muslim lines in a rally in Delhi a little before the riots broke out. So there is that trend that's happening here. And I think this is the first out-and-out Hindutva specific rally that has happened after Eknath Shinde has become the chief minister in Mumbai. In the article of the Hindustan Times, some of the experts have actually said that this is more or less just another attempt to win the BMC polls, and not much should be read into this. The people who are there were actually driven in from other centers. So I just wanted your opinions and thoughts about something like this. Is it just the new normal that we live in, or is Bombay now again becoming, now that we have a BJP coalition in the center, it's also becoming a experimental lab of this don't buy halal, don't fall for Love-Jihad, and that kind of ideology.
I was watching Ravish Kumar's video. He has reached 40 lakhs subscribers, right? In like a matter of 2 months, etc. So वो video देख रहा था. It's a longish video where he's like, हाँ मेरा ये trend रहा है, ये I'm very helpful. He said something very interesting. He said that our news channels and also our newspapers to a large extent focus a lot on divisive, obviously, issues, Hindu-Muslim, like Jan Hindu Akrosh. क्यों आक्रोश कर रहे हो पता नहीं, but कर लो. I mean, ठीक है, whatever. But like his whole thing was that if you are constantly focusing on hate and if you're constantly focusing on division as a news channel, etc. एक तो he always gives this advice कि आप टीवी देखना बंद कर दीजिए. But he said something very interesting. He's like कि आप अपनी शाम बचाइए. Which is essentially he said कि आप शाम को आते हो, आप टीवी देखते हो और फिर आप डिनर टेबल पे भी झगड़ा करते हो, तो अपनी शाम बचाइए, सेल्फिश हो जाइए थोड़ा सा, दोस्तों के साथ बात कीजिए, फैमिली के साथ बात कीजिए, टीवी बंद कर दीजिए. राइट, ही इज लाइक मुझे भी मत देखो, बट स्टिल आई मीन इट्स बेटर टू बी अनअवेयर देन बी अवेयर ऑफ सच थिंग्स. एंड दिस इज एक्चुअली related to this news item because this fellow, the T. Raja Singh fellow from Telangana has been making these headlines for I think a good year now, right? Which is, he says something super controversial, then news channels report on it. He has gone on a few TV channels also to give these statements. He keeps saying things against Prophet Muhammad, etc. I think Nupur Sharma का जो controversy हुआ था उसमें भी कुछ तो भी उसने बीच में बोला था and all the things. A big history of saying these things. This fellow is now their new Kapil Mishra.
Okay.
So, you know, you will realize this trend happening over the last few years, that some saffron-clad, very jingoistic figure comes up, like Yati Narsinganand,
correct,
or Kapil Mishra, or T. Raja, who makes extremely outrageous statements. So, what their job is to shift the Overton window. Right. So for those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't know what an Overton window is. So in any given society, there is like, let's say, I mean, left, right, abhi bol raha hu, but like take it with a little bit bucket full of salt. So there is a left wing opinion and a right wing opinion, right? Or a conservative opinion or a liberal opinion, right? So the society will always be somewhere in the middle. So you average it out, right? So the more extreme you go on this side or the more extreme you go on the left side, but ultimately everyone will average it out and the overall society ka opinion will be in the center. So you can say that human society is centrist. in general with both sides on an equal situation. What an Overton window is that window where the average population lives, if it shifts. So when extreme views are expressed again and again and normalized, then the Overton window shifts towards the extreme. So then what was earlier, like a few years ago, considered an extreme opinion is suddenly now a normal opinion. So that is the Overton window now. So what these figures do, like T. Raja and all these people, by giving these statements, they constantly try to keep shifting the Overton window. So that so for example, if this T. Raja is saying something outrageous, but then some mild uncle in your house is saying something mildly outrageous, you're like, ye to ab normal ho gaya.
Right, correct.
Like pehle that uncle saying something would be like, what the hell are you saying? But because of T. Raja type fellows, or Kapil Mishra, or Yati Narsingh Anand, you're like, at least utna to nahi bola.
Right.
Type. So that is the Overton window. And I think these events are also done for that very purpose. So that normalization can happen towards extreme views, and that can then be used to capture minds and voters and also distract a lot of people. I mean, that's what I think.
Abhinav?
Yeah,
take on this.
Like I'm a business journalist.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm a mechanical engineer turned journalist turned business journalist.
Right.
So I started my career like I was with NDTV when so वहाँ पे of course थोड़ा सा like left leaning जब वो रहा करता था. तो I always had an intrinsic problem with these issues since then.
Correct.
And they were such a time waster.
Yeah.
You know. So over the period of time I stopped getting bothered.
Right.
And to be honest, I had a little when Nikhil sent me your subject na, I'm like, "Arey yaar, is pe kya mana? Why do you want to talk on this?" Not because we shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I find them to be extremely time because that is what politician wants.
Correct. Yeah.
Generating jobs like we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. Generating jobs, generating per capita income is a mammoth task. That requires hard work. This, there is no hard work.
Right.
Okay, just place 20-25 people at a chalk, make them shout slogans, make media cover it, and that's it. Your job is done. Polarization is done.
Correct.
On the contrary, if you want to improve the GDP, you'll have to set up plants, you have to educate your workforce. It's a year-long process. So
Can't do it like so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not only a trend which is India specific. This is like the world is intrinsically turning right.
Correct.
I mean, this started maybe you take from Donald Trump in the US, you take Iran, you take Afghanistan, you take Turkey. I mean, Brazil for that matter, Italy, UK itself. I mean, countries are turning right, and I don't want to comment on this particular incident because I considered even talking about the subject is a waste of time for me, personally speaking.
Yeah.
But having said that, why is this happening globally? I mean, that is somewhere what we need to discuss. I mean, we need to get to the root of the problem. Why is this happening globally? According to me, it's like the world prospered a lot with open market policies across the world, okay? But somewhere, the liberals, and I won't say liberal politicians, also liberal economists, lost the track. So what happened is that it is not a crime to be not progressive. Okay, you want to stay in your village, you don't want to evolve yourself, you don't want to get more degrees, that's fine. You stay in your village at one corner. But what happened suddenly across the world was that there were no benefits extended to people who deliberately didn't want to be progressive. And as a result of which they started backfiring. They started saying, what the hell? Like in US, a couple of years ago, there was no Italian American. I mean, there was, but people didn't used to talk about it that openly. Now what suddenly started happening was a white Christian American male. He suddenly had to take permission from an Italian American, from a Spanish American, from an Indian American to do things which were very basic to him. Now I'm not taking sides here. I'm just telling this is a human problem.
Yeah.
Okay, now this, whatever happened in Dadar, again, this is a waste of time to even discuss it. But what I feel is that over the world, what we need now is a balancing act. Okay, it's fine to be not progressive, not in religious terms.
Right.
Okay, it's fine to be not evolve as long as, like Raghuram Rajan says in his book. Okay, it's okay if you want to stay in your community, you want to do work for your community, you don't want to come to the city. The benefits need to reach you.
Correct.
As long as economic benefits are not reaching you, you will always have a spare mind, and there will be some politician in one corner who will be able to exploit it.
Correct. Yeah.
And religion is the easiest exploitation. You know, आपका income 10,000 से नीचे है, बचपन से आपको बताया गया है कि भगवान ही है who will help you out. Now suddenly when somebody comes and says a derogatory speech about my God, how dare you? I'll come on the street and create ruckus.
Yeah.
My theory about that, I think I've spoken about this before as well, is the Yuval Noah Harari's tribalism theory, right? Which is essentially the best way for a leader or a ruler to essentially establish control over a particular area or a village or a town or whatever is to point to the next village and say those are enemies and they're coming to attack you.
And this has been the trend since 17th century, Abbas.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this is not like abhi ho raha hai.
Right.
It is just that, and media, of course. I mean,
Yeah, they need to
If
cover
You know,
that.
it's also like a sign of how frustrated people are becoming,
Yes.
how jobless people are, how essentially desperate people are. Because the more the government feels like they need to give these sort of distractions, the more worrying it is for economy. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
it is an economic distress sort of situation.
you know what is more, I would say, dangerous for me to discuss right now? I mean, economy pe bata do. I mean, data privacy is something which we all need to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, goddamn, somebody can spy you from sitting anywhere if you have downloaded an app. Your Aadhaar is roaming naked. That is an issue.
Right.
Not कि कौन किससे शादी कर रहा है, कौन कहाँ प्यार कर रहा है. I mean, I don't care, man.
I know, yeah.
Cool. I think very
Yeah.
clearly we have rebuffed this particular issue. So let's move on to our last topic for the day. Meghnad, what do you have for us? I believe it's a sequel to.
It's a
what we
sequel.
discussed.
It's a sequel, guys. Okay, if you heard last week's episode, thank you so much for the comments. I think a lot of you have said that you really enjoyed that part about Hindenburg and Adani. So I bring you part 2 of Hindenburg and Adani because the saga continues. Okay. Quick recap. If you want to see the whole thing, go back to that episode. We have put time codes on YouTube, and we have also put out a separate clip.
Yeah.
So you can watch that part. But I will give you a recap of what essentially has been happening, and I'll tell you exactly where we left it. So first, Adani's shares were at an all-time high, with the group seeing like 800% rise over the pandemic, 3 years mein. Okay, Adani became the second richest man for a bit, and then his stock was completely based on his personal wealth, which is completely based on his own stocks in the company. Now, Adani Group, as you know, is a powerful conglomerate
Low.
with interests in ports, airports, green energy, power, gas, coal, and most recently media. Now, the group announced a follow-on public offering. What that means is it is putting out more shares in the market to raise more money. Simply. Right. Now, at the end of January, which is last week actually, a report comes out from this activist, short-selling, investigative forensic firm, anti-national also, dal do usme, called Hindenburg. They do like a 2-year investigation. They basically do like this audit essentially of the Adanis, and then they claim that Adani is pulling the largest con in corporate history. He is accused of money laundering, stock manipulation, shady dealings, having too many relatives in many foreign countries and tax havens. Basically, that's it. They asked Adani 88 questions. Adani was supposed to respond. They wrapped themselves in a national flag and said ki desh bhakti karna hai. But then they had to respond. जो भी response दिया, I'm not talking about that. Last episode देख लेना. Then Hindenburg basically gave a response to the response saying कि boss तुम ये nationalism वगैरह ठीक है. We love India as well. We think it has great prospects. But people like you are essentially the problem there, which is fraud. Again, Hindenburg statement. I'm not saying it. This is where we left the story last time.
Yeah.
Abbas.
Yes.
Okay. So since then, a lot has happened, which is like 5 days of events. Now, we left it. I was saying that the FPO had come out till I think about the last day. 3% subscriptions were there. Of course, there were people who had already said that they're going to invest. So they said that it is going to be completely subscribed. Now, in the last few hours of the subscription ending, there's this surge. And then it completely gets subscribed. The FPO is 100% subscribed. Now, people then obviously are like, again, I'm putting in some commentary that I heard as well. Now, people are like, Dekh, like people still trust Adani ji, whatever. But there was a problem. The subscription they were offering was 3,126 rupees. The share price was still lower than that. Now, the people who put in money started getting worried. That, listen, why would we buy like a higher price share when in the open market it's cheaper?
Right.
So, essentially, the people who committed are facing a loss. So, and then people were like, acha, so maybe it will recover, but it didn't. It fell even further. So then people started panicking. Now, something else happened after that. Forbes published a report. And 2 days after this happened, Forbes published a report alleging that this last minute surge was also because two particular entities pumped money into the FPO, Elara Capital and Monarch.
They were essentially shell companies of Adani. They were considered to be shell companies of Adani.
Okay.
So it's like Gordon Gecko, Indian Gordon Gecko,
No, the interesting... Okay, so the interesting thing here, which is the most fascinating thing here. Okay, so Adani is accused of inflating its own shares using shell companies. Right? Shell companies like Elara Capital and Monarch, right? In the first part, right? They issue an FPO, shares जा रहे, end में तुम वही करते हो in front of the entire world to watch what is happening. So the whole point is that तुमने जो पहले accusation किया है, you are now displaying it to people while the entire world is watching you. Right? So A, stupid.
Right.
B, I mean, what the hell is the regulator doing? Right? I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, right? Now, those were not the only two who invested in the FPO to make it fully subscribed. There was Mukesh Ambani ji who put in money. There was Mittals who put in money. There was SBI who put in money. There was LIC also who put in money. And there was a bank, Abu Dhabi International Fund. It's a bank fund, which also put in money. And I think a few more, but mostly high net worth individuals. Retail traders ne, mutual funds ne, or private banks ne, chua bhi nahi. Right. Now, what happens is the shares keep falling. And they do this, which is the Forbes article that came out. Again, these are all based on reports, so please read those reports. We will link below.
Yes.
Now, so this is what was happening. Now, share is falling. Now, Swiss bank Credit Suisse, which is a big ass bank.
And this happened on the budget day.
This happened on the budget day, right? So while all this Abhinav said is happening, this is also happening.
Yeah.
Somehow this became a bigger story than the budget, which I have never seen happening before actually. So Swiss bank Credit Suisse halted all margin loans that it was giving Adani. What that means is, okay, so Adani runs an infrastructure business, which means it has ports, it has transmission,
Yeah.
Now, what happens with an infrastructure business is that the government wants to build more infrastructure, so they will give the contract to someone like Adani, which means they have to keep pouring money into that project.
Right.
For that, they need money. For that, they need credit. So they were going outside India to people like Credit Suisse to borrow. Now, a margin loan is essentially jaldi se paisa chahiye, to put it simply. So Credit Suisse is like, nahi denge. It's like, we don't trust your bonds anymore, and they stop giving them loans, right? After that, another, which is Citigroup, again a big bank, also stopped giving them loans. Shit went down. Forbes, this happened same time. And the most magical thing or the most bizarre thing happens. Adani ji withdraws the FPO.
Okay.
So that fully subscribed FPO, which they actually were touting a day before, saying, oh, everybody trust Adani. Next day, they withdraw the entire thing and says, we are returning all the money to investors. Now,
because it's morally incorrect according to him. No? According to the group, it was morally incorrect.
Also, market volatility हो रहा है.
Of course.
And जब वो stable as हो जाएगा, तब हम फिर से
And
करेंगे.
Adani ji came on NDTV to make this
Yes,
announcement.
he gave a statement. He did a video also that, we care about the investors. We have a heart of gold. But interestingly, again, remember what I said? Monarch and Elara Capital were the ones who put in money.
Yeah.
So now, when you're giving money back, you're giving it back to your
Yourself.
shell companies. What? So, I mean, so here's the thing. I was reading all this. I was reading all these reports, and I was getting very confused because it sounds very unreal to me, right? That the thing you're accused of, you're doing it real time in front of the entire world, and then backing out on it and also doing the same thing in front of the entire world. So I asked 2 of my CA friends, I put it out on Twitter कि boss मेरा interpretation सही है क्या बताओ, and everybody was like, yep, this is exactly what is happening. And now the questions that are coming up. Now the RBI has asked banks to furnish reports on how much exposure they have in the Adani group, because obviously it's a worrying situation. So estimates say that about Adani has taken about 2 lakh crore of loan debt overall, out of which 80,000 crore is with Indian banks, which is a big amount. Just to give you a comparison, Manrega for the entire year was 60,000 crore.
Right.
The debt that Adani ji has with Indian banks is 80,000 crore. So 20,000 crore more.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe revise kar lenge. Then no official statements have come from SEBI yet. SBI bhi nahi. Dow Jones has removed Adani from the sustainability indices. People can't trade there anymore. Adani is in talks to prepay the share. So essentially now that the worry is that उन्होंने जो शेयर दिया था उसके ऊपर जो लोन लिया था, now Adani is in talk with the banks to pay that loan back. But the problem is they can't get money from anywhere else. FPO भी cancel कर दिया.
Right.
So ये करने के लिए पैसा कहाँ से लेंगे? Now another thing that has happened, which again take it with a pinch of salt. Just read this report. So there's this economic story, Economic Times में story which you guys should read, which is about basically what happened in these days of जो भी हुआ drama. So it's a backroom drama. Basically, it reads like a thriller, all based on anonymous sources. Again, telling you that it is based on sources. So please take this with a pinch of salt. A name came up called Cyril Shroff.
Okay.
Cyril Shroff is a lawyer. He is also Adani's son ka father-in-law.
Okay.
And he is also a part of the SEBI committee on corporate governance and insider trading.
Okay.
Okay. So these two things basically are also a conflict of interest. Another question that people are asking, which I thought was very interesting as well. Now, SBI has given loans to Adani. SBI has also bought shares of Adani to give more loans to Adani. It is such a bizarre situation there where you're not only giving loans to Adani in the form of credit, but you're also buying shares and giving credit on top of it. So essentially people have been asking ki, what is this circular transaction here? We don't get it. So uska clarification aaya nahi hai. Now, okay, I will just end with some reactions that people have given. Harish Salve, our ex-Solicitor General, has called this a calculated attack on India. He used to represent Adani at some point. Our BJP folks are basically saying it is a conspiracy by George Soros.
Okay.
Obviously. They found some weird links between Ford Foundation, Soros, Azim Premji Foundation, DG Pub, which has News Laundry. So technically me as well. So if Soros sir, if you're listening to this, मेरा पैसा clear करो भैया. मैं इतना बात कर रहा हूँ इस पे, मतलब बहुत मेहनत किया है, please पैसा दो. So basically they are connecting this whole thing to an NGO which was opposing the Australian mine, the Carmichael mine by Adani, and how NGOs are connected to that, and how now liberals like me are connected to that, and that is why we want Adani to fail, that is why we want India to fail. Anyway, now markets basically as of now, as of recording this, Adani Enterprises has lost 70% of its market value. It used to be worth something. It has lost like $120 billion of wealth, value, which has basically cut down their entire group value to half. And that has happened in a period of 5 trading sessions. Okay, finally, Parliament. Budget pesh hua. Budget happened on the 1st. This whole drama was unfolding also on the 1st. Second Parliament comes back.
In fact, when the finance minister was giving a speech, The moment she mentioned ports को हम enhance करेंगे, opposition started shouting Adani, Adani, Adani.
Yes. And so next day, what happens usually is that the president gives a speech before the budget, saying my government has done this, my government has done that. The first day of parliament, which happened after the budget, usme there's a discussion to be held on the president's speech. Now, MPs are allowed to modify that speech.
Okay.
MPs can actually put in amendments to the speech that was given, etc. So that discussion was supposed to happen yesterday. Didn't happen because the moment they started, obviously opposition stormed the well. Lok Sabha got adjourned till 2. Then 2 ke baad it got adjourned till today. I don't know what happened today. I'll tell you next time.
Right.
And Rajya Sabha mein also there were repeat scenes where. But in Rajya Sabha, the interesting thing that happened, 17 MPs from opposition parties had filed notices saying इस पे discussion चाहिए हमको.
By the way, on a lighter note, you were talking about president's speech. The budget has also cut presidents को जो funds मिलते हैं ना, उसमें से भी कुछ पैसे काट दिए.
Oh, sad. Sad.
So the president house which goes to the president का खर्चा annual जो उनका होता है, उसमें से some budget has been slashed. So
Anyway, the vice president, who is the chairman of Rajya Sabha, Jaideep Dhankar, first time there, tried to go like, oh, kammagani, was trying to be like a nice guy, like trying to form a rapport. Nahi hua because people got up and screamed the hell at him.
Right.
Again, 17 notices were filed. All of them were rejected by him. His first act, I think, literally was this, which is rejecting all the notices for discussion. And he said that, no, we should talk about the president's speech. वो नहीं हुआ. Then it got adjourned till 2. Then again till today.
Right.
Again, मुझे नहीं पता राज्य सभा में क्या हुआ. अगली बार बताऊंगा. So yeah, that is the overall drama that has unfolded. Done it again. Go on.
Do you think Adani Group and Adani ji can recover from this?
I don't want to speculate, but I think, that's what Abhinav, like, maybe you can also tell me. So everybody I knew who follows the market says, ये तो overinflated है. अरे ये तो कोई publicly नहीं बोलता था, privately सब बोलते थे कि ये overinflated है, गिरने वाला है कभी तो भी, be careful.
See, the very fact is, if you carefully study, good companies across the world, there is a consistent growth which happens, and it happens over a timeline. Okay, unless you're a Facebook or an Amazon where there is a heavy flow of capital and there's a heavy flow of money also.
Right.
In Adani's case, you have the company has actually grown in like multiple times in value in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. Second,
actually 3 years, Abhinav.
Yeah, I mean
800% in 3 years.
What I'm trying to say is the period has been very small.
Yeah.
And for a company like Adani, into ports, infrastructure, and abhi to media में भी है, मतलब these are capital intensive sectors. These are not your छुटभैया sectors जहाँ पे आपने 100 crore लगा दिए काम हो गया. These are capital intensive sectors. आप airports भी बना रहे हो. Now the way Adani was raising money was already very suspicious, and you would have observed a lot of healthy mutual funds have stayed away from Adani investments from day one. जो hedge fund managers जो थोड़े से शातिर होते हैं ना, they realize this is a bubble which will be bursting. Now we have seen explanations from a lot of quarters, from CII, from a lot of people in the industry, that Adani has got some businesses which have direct revenue collection. Okay, like power, जहाँ पे you are giving service and there is a payment accepted. Okay? Then there is a port, okay, where you are making something and there is a payment. Then there is telecom, जिसमें हालांकि Adani is not as exposed to telecom. The argument is that we have heard something similar a couple of days back. It was Anil Ambani. Anil Ambani was also power. I mean, everything was healthy. You know where that story ended, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that Gautam Adani, and initially when they were like caught off guard, जब Hindenburg का research आया था, and of course they declared that they're short selling on it, and they also did not have investors' best interest at heart. They were clear that we are short selling on it. But the way Adani responded was not like verbatim. Something similar happened to Dhirubhai Ambani in the 90s. Okay. But the way he handled it was very, I mean, that is like a case study.
Okay.
After that, markets never messed up with Dhirubhai Ambani. The way Adani handled it.
What did he do?
Yeah, what did he do?
So Dhirubhai Ambani came up with a rebuttal.
Okay.
Word by word. He did not get into emotion. ठीक है ना?
Which is exactly what you should do.
आपने बगल में झंडा रख करके ये नहीं बोला कि देश के ऊपर अटैक है.
Right.
I mean, if you know what you are doing, then you have an explanation for it, right? I mean, you don't get like and उसके ऊपर भी कई सारे memes भी बनने लग गए थे. Of course.
Oh, someone
To be honest, Adani Group was also a shikar of a lot of fake news.
Sorry, someone just tweeted. I was just reading this tweet that Adani Nassim Nicholas Taleb, basically he said that Adani ji ko ek advice, like one advice to Adani ji: if everything is okay, don't make a video saying everything is okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So initially the reaction was there was a flag when the CFO was giving the conference. I mean the initial reaction से बहुत कुछ पता लग जाता है. Okay, उसके बाद तो you have time to prepare and what to say and what not to say. But the way you react towards it initially actually gives market a sense how long this battle is going to be and what is happening.
Right.
And Abhinav, the other weird thing that is happening, and again it has started happening in the last week, and I said this last time as well. Now, of course, there is like this fan club of BJP and connected to Modi. I don't know again why BJP fan club is saving Modi's ass also, but again, maybe kuch nahi, maybe I don't know.
Meghnad, there's a very strong political reason behind it.
I know. I mean, I'm just being facetious, whatever. But like the point is that these people are still defending Adani. They're saying that attack on India. और उसी time पे 30% से रोज share गिर रहा है. They're becoming such a laughing stock. I don't understand how they're still doing this.
This has to be assessed very seriously, Meghnad.
Yeah.
So what happened was in 2002, when Narendra Modi was in the backlash of Hindu-Muslim rights at that moment. So he created Vibrant Gujarat at that point. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, he invited a lot of industrialists from across the world, but nobody came. Because nobody wanted to mess up their relationship with the Congress at that time.
Yeah.
It was Gautam Adani who saved the face for him. Right. He took a bunch of entrepreneurs from Gujarat and made sure that there is a bunch of heads in the conferences so that it doesn't go empty. Now, Narendra Modi is known for, sticking by people who have stuck with him in his bad times or when it mattered the most. And that's why we have seen meteoric rise of Adani. Not like verbatim that is happening, but you can relate. Okay, that's one. Number two, what is worrying and what people and the government also need to worry about is LIC's exposure. LIC में जो पैसा है, that is not for millionaires. That is भारतीय जीवन बीमा निगम, ठीक है, जहाँ पे 20-20 हजार रुपए वाला तनख्वाह वाला आदमी अपना पैसा लगा करके इंश्योर कर रहा है कि आगे मेरे जाने के बाद बच्चे सही से पढ़ लिख जाएं.
There is that 1 रुपए दिन का scheme and all the things like
वो आप, that is the middle class. If not for Adani, if not for yourself, you need to worry about your middle class. Because if the middle class comes on road, boss, you're gone. I mean, LIC's exposure is something which is worrying. State Bank of India, ठीक है, वो पहले भी हो चुका है. It's in the business of inventing money. Fine, ठीक है, हो जाता है. LIC is something which is worrying. I mean, banks usually across the world, we have done a show on it, Meghnad, banks, how they invent money. So, State Bank of India, ठीक है, loan के ऊपर loan, you manufacture money somehow, but LIC के बारे में, and the way LIC is invested, the amount of money LIC is invested, has to come, the approval of it has to come from the government.
Right.
If you are investing so much amount of money in one corporate, the approval has to come from the finance ministry or the PMO. They cannot just go randomly, हाँ बताओ क्या Shark Tank की तरह बैठ के, this has to come from approval. So I think there has to be some investigation done on that. And Adani छोड़ो, आप LIC को बचाओ पहले यार. Adani will be whatever it is, but you have to get LIC out of that mess. You cannot make LIC the constant, that pond, whatever bag asset LIC के ऊपर फेंक दो. जो भी है LIC के ऊपर फेंक दो.
LIC has traditionally been the piggy bank of the government.
More
for
than
ages,
piggy bank, Meghnad, I will have a more blunt opinion. It's like that दलदल, जहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा गंदगी फेंक सकते हो आप. ठीक है, it's like that dump, सब वहाँ पे चला जाएगा because it is mammoth. And the irony is, we all saw how LIC's IPO fared. Because investors are now also getting worried. And the worst part is, it dents the sovereignty of a nation. If the government, sarkari, biggest insurance company of your country is facing a flak like that, it has weak fundamentals like that, reflects the weak sovereignty of your country. So I think, आप देशभक्ति अगर आपको एक्चुअल है ना, जो आप इधर एनर्जी लगा रहे हो, you go after LIC saving, save LIC, nothing else matters.
Very legit. I'm getting worried about the BJP supporters now a little bit because after a point you're like, अभी भी क्यों कर रहे हो? अभी भी चालू है तुम्हारा? Like after a point I genuinely got worried. I'm getting trolled obviously.
Right.
But then now I'm like, boss तू मुझे troll क्यों कर रहा है? As you said, LIC को बचा. Like, actually, like your money will go, my money will go. I'm worried, man.
That is my Desh Bhakti.
Yeah, I'm worried about the markets. I'm worried about the people that will lose their money. मैंने तो मेरा जल्दी पैसा निकाल लिया, सब जगह से निकाल लिया मैंने, FD में घुसा दिया है. मतलब seriously, I am panicking. And it is a panic situation for a lot of people. And in this atmosphere, you shouldn't do such shitty behavior.
Exactly.
That is basically the bottom line of it.
And you know what? What economics has taught us since its inception, you want to test the metal of the bhakts. आज की भाषा में जो हम बोलते हैं, मतलब कई terms हैं उनके. You go after the pocket.
Right.
Then see how many will stay.
ठीक
है ना? I have seen a lot of government employees who are friends of mine, and they're hardcore. They even support the wrong policies of the government. But whenever there's an announcement कि tax में concession नहीं होगा, सरकारी employees के साथ voluntary retirement scheme आपको मिल रही, सब एकदम खड़े हो जाते हैं. What the hell? What kind of government is this?
Yeah.
Oh, there is this screenshot doing the rounds. There's this account which has like bold में उसका ये title है, अंधभक्त of Modi ji with like whatever.
I think.
And उसने like अभी कल ही tweet किया कि I will never trust Modi ji again because I lost 34,000 rupees in Adani. And it's like मैंने तुम्हारे भरोसे पे किया था, बोले थे कि स्टॉक चलता जाएगा, अभी एक दिन में मेरा 34,000 का पुअर गए. But 34,000, 5 शेयर थे उसके पास. Like imagine.
But let me give also a disclaimer, Meghnad. I mean, when I say Bhakt personally, I'm not only talking about Modi ji and his Bhakts.
Yeah.
It could be any government's Bhakt, any ideology Bhakt.
Absolutely, I understand.
We have to give that disclaimer.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
we'll be branded as. We are not talking about one particular type of government.
We are actually talking about people who are blindly following a leader, party, ideology, whatever it be.
Yeah.
Don't be that. Be critical. Look at people around you and see what is the reality.
Look at your insurance, man.
Yeah. LIC देखो.
LIC को बचाना मतलब मैं तो मतलब बंदूक लेके सड़क पे उतर जाऊंगा मतलब that is what needs to be saved यार. I don't care about Adani और उसका CEO यार. I don't care.
Also, fun exercise for you guys. Go to the LIC website. Look at their board of directors and who is sitting there. Just Google their names and see you will find many fun things.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm not saying anything. तुम करो.
That brings us to the end of this week's show. Thank you so much, Abhinav, for joining us. Thank you, Meghnad. Abhinav, before we wrap up, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you on social media? Anything you want to say?
So you can find me by my name, Abhinav Trivedi. I represent this company called Street Journos. And please check our shows, Ikka Dukka Economy. And if Meghnad stays with us, we'll have more shows.
चलो ठीक है. That's a good statement to make. I must point out. Yes. Let's hope.
Meghnad, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @memeghnad. I am tweeting a lot these days about this whole nonsense going on. Most of it is also nonsense, so please.
Because Meghnad said, so I'll just reclaim that. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Ponga Pandit. And my Twitter handle is Altered Pandit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. And you can follow my YouTube channel. I'm Meghnad on YouTube channel.
Meghnad, wow.
Meghnad. And on Instagram, I'm Meghnades.
Nice. You can follow me on Twitter at Abbas Momin and Abbas Momin88 on Instagram. Once again, one last time, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, press the like button. We're also putting out individual clips from Page 10, so in case you don't want to watch the entire episode and want to watch just one topic, you can find them on the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, please rate and review us. And you can also find ELI 10 on this very channel, on this very feed. And very soon, How to Citizen Season 2 will be coming up, so look out for that as well. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week with a new panel and new topics, or maybe a third version of this topic.
Adani Saga continues, part 3. But yeah,
we'll find out next week. Till then, bye-bye.
Thank you.
So much.
Bye-bye.